Prophets have counseled us to have a garden and to be able to produce our own food. And I know that if we follow that, we'll be blessed for our efforts. And as far as I know, that has never been taken back. The prophets have never come and said, you know what, it's all good, you have Walmart now, so you don't need to produce your own food. Well, I know that that mentality is out there. In fact, in one award I was in, we were talking about it in Relief Society, and a sister raised her hand. She goes, well, I think that they were talking about, you know, back in the olden days, because now you can just, there's case lot bills. I was like, no, we need to know. So I'm going to turn the time over to Patty. She's going to introduce our amazing speakers, and we'll turn it over to them after that. They're so excited. They have been, can't wait for this to be over. But, so go ahead.
What's your birthday today?
Okay, tonight we have Dennis and Tancy Johnson here to teach us something about gardening, and they are absolutely wonderful gardeners. I like to drive past their house and see it. It's just beautiful. It is truly a work of art what they do, and they grow herbs and vegetables, and they have fruit trees. And I don't know if Tancy plans on telling you, but she has these things hanging in her fruit trees. I know this is about gardens, but I asked her one time about the things hanging in her fruit trees to keep the bugs and things out of them. And it's really interesting what she does. She spends a lot of time studying about how the weather affects her garden, and they study about when to plant things and what kinds of plants to grow, and what kinds of seeds to use. I don't know if they use all heirloom seeds, but I know they use a lot of them at least because, well, I'll let them tell you why. Okay, one time I was talking to Tancy about how she decides what to grow and how much of what to grow from year to year. And it was very educational for me. She keeps track of how much she cans and puts away, so that, and then she goes back and figures out how much she used that year, so that she knows how much to plant to replenish, so that she always keeps on hand, you know, what she has used, and to keep it replenished, and then helps her to know, you know, which things to do. And it's really good because sometimes it's really hard to know if you want to do something different or how much of what to plant in your garden so you get the best use of your space. One thing that they always grow is corn and tomatoes, because that is Dennis's favorite meal, is corn and tomatoes. If that's all that he has on the table, he's very happy. We're unsure if that's also Tancy's favorite, or if she just eats that because that is Dennis's favorite. So we're really excited to turn the time over to them and have them teach us something tonight. And I definitely recommend that if you ever want to see something beautiful, go past and look at their garden. I'll turn the time over to you guys.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. I don't know when to ask us to come, but I'm not a professional gardener by any means, but the one thing I've always enjoyed is working with the vegetable gardens. I grew up in a little farming community just north of here, about 9 miles, and my mother and dad always raised gardens. They always put up the produce every year because they had a family of 15 children and had to provide a lot for them, and so they did a lot of canning. We learned how to can. We learned how to peel carrots and potatoes and put them away in bottles. We learned how to can meat and so on. And when I was growing up, we didn't have a rototiller like a lot of people have now. In fact, I'll show you the rototiller I grew up on. You can tell it's been around a long time, but this kind of rototiller, the starter has not functioned for years. So my dad said, just get out and grab a hold of it and use it. And so I'd go out and spade the garden. We had a huge garden, and we just hand spade it, break up the clumps, and plant the garden every year. You can tell this is that I like golfing because one of the use for a golf ball, when the shovel end breaks off, is you put it there, put duct tape on it, so you can use it to damp in your
It's not working.
what's that? Yeah, I think,
Oh, it's fine. Your arm just going around the antenna.
yeah. Anyway, one of the things that my wife learned since we got married and started doing gardening, it was neat to see her so interested in gardening. Couldn't have asked for a better partner for that. She does a lot of studying and learning how to put things up. So we make a pretty good team that way because and she
Let
does
me tell
like,
you what he does.
let her tell you what I do.
When you decide what to plant, make sure your husband likes what you plant. It might disappear if he doesn't.
Especially if it's rhubarb. I think that was a mistake in the creation. So sometime now that I do have a rototiller, sometimes if the rhubarb's there, it wanders over and just takes it under. And my wife would come out and say, well, where's my rhubarb going?
I don't know, did it go somewhere?
For sure. But one thing we'd like to do tonight is, we don't have all the answers. There's certain things that we've developed over the years. We just do a lot of trial and error, things that we try to grow and try to improve with the quantity and produce that or the results of the garden, so that we can don't have to go to Walmart. The worst thing to do is to get a tomato from Walmart in December. I mean, it tastes like a Play-Doh or something. It's just not good. Gas ripened vegetables is not the way to go. So there's nothing better than homegrown tomatoes and corn and beans and carrots. It's just great stuff. And I know the prophets have taught us to do a garden. There's several. Can anybody tell me some advantages to raising a garden?
It's more nutritious
Okay.
than what you get in the produce department.
Okay. Anybody else? Tom?
Good exercise.
Okay.
Save money.
It
Okay.
does.
I know someone that does it to relieve stress.
Okay. That's a good way.
Good thing.
Kevin?
You know what herbicides or pesticides are on?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Now, what's the disadvantage of the herbicide and pesticide?
They don't taste good.
They're not good for you. I mean, if I don't have any medical facts to prove this, but I think a lot of the reason the cancer rates are so high now is because of the things that people put on the produce that's raised in large quantities. Those pesticides and stuff are not good for us, and yet we're consuming those. Can you tell them what I can and can't do based on your direction?
He can't fertilize my garden. The only thing he can do in the garden to fertilize is grass clippings, manure. We use our table scraps, the peelings from our vegetables and fruit, put that out in the garden. You can use hair. When you cut somebody's hair, that's good to put in the garden. Sounds odd, but it works good. Leaves. In the fall, leaves, except you do not want walnut leaves in your garden. They're toxic and they will create all kinds of problems with your garden. So stay away from the walnut leaves. Any other leaves are basically okay. Yes?
Do you compost all this first, or you just?
We just throw it in the garden and till it under. We've tried composting, but we haven't been able to do very good with it. Because you've got to constantly stir it, you've got to keep adding certain things to it. We throw it in the garden, and our soil, I'm going to let Dennis tell you what our soil was like when he came into the picture. So,
Okay, well, anyway, the first year we raised a garden together back in the early 80s, I tilled it up, and those of you who are familiar with subdivision, the developers, what they do when they develop a subdivision, they come in and they scrape all the good topsoil out, take it and sell it for a premium price, and then they bring garbage in. And we had a lot of clay in our yard, So the first year when I'm trying to raise root vegetables, I tilled it up and it was fine. Once it's tilled up, it's nice and soft, but when it gets wet, it turns hard as concrete. So my first year, my carrot that I produced, they were about that big around and about that long. There was nowhere for them to go. They couldn't go down to the ground. It was just so hard. So those of you some people of the opinion that if they ever get to a situation where they all of a sudden have to raise a garden, they'll just go out and plant a few seeds and everything will be wonderful. But gardens take a lot of work, a lot of consistent effort, and in order to make good soil, which you can all do no matter what you have, we till leaves in. I chop up my corn, shred it, till it back in the fall, my other plants. Much as I can, I'll shred them up and put them in the garden. I put grass clippings in. And one thing we try to do to save labor on weeding the garden is once you have some leftover newspapers, we put those between the rows, cover them with grass clippings, and that helps the weeds keep the weeds from coming up. And then in the fall, I just till in the newspaper. And that way the worms have something to read during the winter time. Good stuff. And see, I had one thing I was going to mention. I forgot what it was. But with the water hasn't been an issue this year, obviously, because of all the rain we've had. But in the past, when we've had these dry years, we've tried to simplify watering. I don't know how many of you have seen this. It's soaker hose. You can buy these in 100-foot lengths, and they have a little seat pole every foot, or you can get them where it's every 18 inches. They just rub over it. That's probably somebody controlling it. But anyway, that way you put the water right where it needs to be, right on the roots of your plants, instead of, those of you who have secondary water understand what I mean. Every time you use secondary water, it's like hydroseeding weeds. No matter how many filters I put on mine, I have one right at the beginning, I have one on the end where I feed it into the tube, but I still get tons of particularly ragweed. So if I try watering with a sprayer, it just fills everything up with weeds. So we try to do it this way, not only to conserve water, and conserve efforts have to weed it. So
what we do with this, we put it back right down the row, and there's little clips that you just put over top of it into the ground to hold it in place. We put it right in the row, right with the plants. So it's not over here and it's not over here. It's right next to the plants. And you don't have to do much of anything with it. You can water, you can turn it on. It's on for maybe 15, 20 minutes. Your garden's watered. Our garden's big enough, we have to do it in sections. So, and it waters really well. And what we do is we put the newspaper down in between the row, 2, maybe 4 layers of newspaper. More would be better. And then we take our grass clippings when we mow the yard, and we put that on top of the newspaper, put it right up to the plants. That's going to help keep the weeds down. It's going to help keep it moist, so you're not using as much water, and you're not out there weeding the whole garden. All you're weeding is what's in between in the row. So you've got the plants and the weeds that are in the row. In between the row, there's nothing that grows. And you can walk on it. It's a garden. You're going to do all kinds of things. But it's good to do that because you don't have to deal with so many weeds. Last year we didn't do it, and oh my goodness. We were ready to just light a match to it before we were done.
yeah, well, we put the grass clipping in, we didn't put the newspaper, and
The
so it was
newspaper makes
slow
a big
weeds coming up.
difference.
Makes a ton of difference.
It makes a big difference because it puts that barrier between the grass, and you don't have to use as much grass that way, because I put probably about that thick of a pile of grass on my garden, and you're going to squish it down and smash it down as you're walking on it. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do anything more with it. You can add more later if you'd like, and you may not get enough grass from your own yard. Your neighbor's cutting grass. As long as they haven't sprayed it with herbicides or pesticides or anything like that, it's okay to use. Okay? What else? We have this on the end. He's got a long pipe that goes down the row, and he's got this on the end and this, so that when we need to water a row, all we do is turn this on. Whoops, it's already wet. So we turn that on, and it's going to water our garden easy enough with it. We want to know if any of you have questions. So right now, we're going to take a few.
How many of you raise a garden regularly?
Some of you ought to be up here doing this. I know a few of you out there that should. Teaching instead.
Have you ever tried, why do you use the newspaper instead of like black plastic? Like some people use the black plastic and put the plants in?
Because the black
Plastic's not
plastic,
good, made of petroleum.
Okay.
also you're going to have to pull it up in the fall. The
Yeah,
newspaper, you
till it-
don't do anything with it, you just till it under.
What do you do for insect control?
Tell them what you do. That's part of what this stick is. You don't use 7.
No.
I learned real quick, you don't use that. She uses, tell them what you use.
This is diatomaceous earth in here, and I get squash bug every year basically because they know the squash. There are some tricks that you can do. Most of the information is in this handout you've been given. There's a lot of recipes in there. Everything's organic. I do nothing but organic in my garden. He tries to sneak stuff in there sometimes, gets in trouble.
I haven't tried for the last 5 or 6 years. It's not worth the effort. I used to do it at 4 in the morning because she wouldn't be privy to it, but then she caught me one time, so now.
He can't do it. So I fill this up. I just take a paper plate and I cut it in half. I roll it, put it on here so that I can just pour stuff in here, and it's diatomaceous earth. Diatomaceous earth is ground up coral. It's on the bottom of the ocean floor. It's on the ocean floor, they go down, they scrape it up, they dry it, and this is what you get. What it does is it's not harmful to people. I put it in with a lot of my grains and that, or beans, to keep the weevils out. They'll go in, if they get in there, speaking with, or in your garden. What they do is they'll go across it and it's going to cut their bellies open. And they're going to die. So, because it's really sharp. Point is to them. But to us, it's not at all. You can feel it, it's just very powdery, like baby powder.
2 things, you have to make sure you get the food grade diatomaceous earth. That's real important. And where did you get your stick?
My stick, this is called a spritzer, garden duster, and sprayer. It can be used with water or dust. I fill it up on this end. I take the lid off here. I fill it up with water, my liquid or dust, either one. Put the lid on, and I don't want to do too much. It's got a hole right down here. So I'll take it out. I don't know, you can see just a little, I just get a little bit out there. I don't want to do too much because we're in here. But this will dust my plants. I can put it and get the underside of the leaves. I can turn it and get the top of the leaves. I can go and get the stem. I can get anything I want. And it's not going to hurt anything. I stay away from the flowers.
Where do you get them?
If you have a pen and pencil, write it down on your thing. You can Google this and you can get them online. I haven't found, I ordered this a long time ago, probably 20 years ago, maybe.
I wasn't alive then, so I don't even know.
And I still have it, it's still good, and it's very sturdy. It's called the Spritzer Garden Duster Sprayer. And let's see, it has on the back here, it's out of Bristol, Indiana. Earthway Products Incorporated.
So is that how it's supposed to look coming out of there, just a dust like that?
It's a dust.
That's how fine that diatomaceous.
It coats the plant. It'll coat the underside of the plant. It'll stick to it. It'll stick to the top. When it rains, you go out and spray again. Yes,
Why do you avoid the flowers with that?
because you want the honeybees to come and pollinate. You don't want to do anything that's going to mess them up. So this is from Earthway Products Incorporated, Bristol, Indiana. The zip code is 46507. It has a Canadian patent. Okay, here's the U.S. patent number if you want that. It's 2.
I don't think they need a patent number.
Well, you probably wouldn't. So if you just call it the Spritzer Garden Sprayer, you'll be able to get it.
They
Yeah.
have something like it on Amazon for $20.
I was little, and they didn't do as well. So I don't know if it's the same thing or not.
So we learned about diatomaceous earth at our last class, sanitation, and as I was researching it afterwards, I learned a lot that you want to be careful not to get it in your lungs, not
Right.
to inhale it. and have in your lungs.
So while you're out in the garden, sometimes I'll just take my shirt and pull it up over my nose, or you can wear a mask
Yeah. And so you just do as needed?
as needed.
So you only apply it when it's dry, not wet?
I've gone out when it's been raining and put it on.
Oh, have you?
Uh-huh. So it just makes it stick better.
Early in the morning is the best time to do it, always got dew, so it'll stick to the plant better.
And in here, there's some other things that will help you with the different types of bugs. There's a garden, how to put a garden together if you don't want to till a garden. You can do it on top of the ground. I have on the third page back and beyond, there are different recipes for handling different kinds of bugs. There's a knock 'em dead insect spray. I sprayed that on the squash bug, and they immediately just keel over because it's very hot. It's got cayenne pepper in it. There's
One thing you have to constantly do in a garden is check on a daily basis for bugs, particularly squash bugs. Usually what happens is it looks like your plant's drying up, there's no water or something, so your natural tendency is water a little bit more, but what it is that the bugs are down there eating the roots, and then the plant just dies, and all of a sudden there's nothing you can do about it. So you've got to check under the leaves for squash bug eggs and stuff like that and take them off. But it takes constant care and effort, just like you're raising your little kids. Got to check their diaper and see if they poop. You got to check the bugs, see if they're eating your plants. So you've got
I don't
to
necessarily do it on a daily basis, but if I know there's bugs on there, then I do it on a daily basis. Otherwise, I kind of watch. And there are some things in here with squash, you're always going to get squash bug. There's a way that you can make a spray to put on the squash beforehand. It's with your artificial vanilla and water, equal amounts of both. And just get a hand spritzer and just go out there and spray the leaves. The smell of the squash is what draws the bugs to it. If you change the smell of the leaves with the vanilla, they won't come to it. So that works. Sometimes you have to do 2 or 3 things, because if you're like me, you don't get out there every day to do it, or every time you should. So then when those times are that you don't get out there, that's when they take an attack. So then you have to attack back. As you can see, we've got quite a few books up here about gardening. This one happens to be one of my favorite ones, because a lot of the recipes that you've got in your handout came from this book. They're tried, they're tested, they work. There's weed killer in here as well. Although I do want to say something about the weeds. A lot of those weeds you're pulling out are more nutritious than the plants you're trying to get to grow. So sometimes you might just want to figure out what the weeds are, and we've done this. We've had salads with our weeds. They have more nutrition to them than you're going to get in your garden plants, but sometimes it's just the idea it's a weed. I'm not going to eat
How
that.
many of you ever had dandelions in your salads? It's pretty good for you, actually.
Prickly lettuce.
And one thing I'd say, make sure you don't put morning glory in it.
Oh, no, you don't want to do it. You want to make sure you know what the weed is that you're using, if it's edible or not. Don't just go pick weeds and think that it's going to be okay to eat it, because some of them are not. Some of them will get you. Some of the things that we do, everything we do is organic, right?
The last 5 or 6 years, I think.
Some things that you can do to help keep the birds away. We feed the birds all winter long, so in the spring and summer, they think they still have food to eat in our yard. And that's when we're trying to, no, you go somewhere else this time. So we put these in the ground, and when the wind blows, the shining will chase them away. They don't like things, and if you move them around, then they don't get used to it. If they get used to the idea that it's in the same spot, it's not going to hurt them, it doesn't matter what you do, they're going to come in. So if you move them around periodically, then they don't get the idea that it's something stationary and it's going to get them. Anything else?
Well, tell them about I mean, we raise, as she mentioned, we have fruit trees as well. And she
Oh,
mentioned
we
these
get
bottles
that.
that hang from the tree. So tell them what you have the bottles in the tree for.
Here, you grab this.
Okay.
The bottles I have, in your stone fruit, your peaches, your plums, your anything that has a stone in it, get your 2-liter pop bottles. If somebody's having a party and they're having a lot of 2-liter pop bottles, say, can I have those? I don't even rinse them out, because what you're going to do is you're going to put 1 cup of sugar in them, 1 cup of white vinegar, and 1 banana peel. You're going to put that in there, and then you're going to fill it up to where it starts to taper off. Fill the jug up with water to where it starts to taper off. Put the lid on it, give it a good shake. Then you can take and put some twine around the neck of it, just below that little lip there, and then hang it in your tree after the fruit starts to set on. It's already blossomed, the blossoms are dying, the fruit's starting to set on. Take them out and put them in the tree now. I've got some old ones hanging in my tree right now. I need to take them down and replace them. And that way you can keep your peaches, your nectarines, your plums, both the pears, and now they do something different, but you can keep the bugs out of them. You can take and open those up in the fall, and there's not going to be any worms in them. Sometimes if your tree is a bit bigger, you need to have more than 1 of those bottles in the tree. Those work. We've done that for years, and the trees that have them in, they're worm-free. Once in a while, you'll get a worm in 1 or 2 of them, but not very much otherwise. The other ones we take are milk cartons, and I take and cut a little hole on both sides of it, and you fill that with vinegar and molasses and water. And then that keeps it talks about it in your handout. Both of these are in your handout, so, excuse me. They keeps all of those, the worms that get into your apples, it keeps them out of them. And you can tell if you're, the 1 year you do it, and there's one section that has worms in it, but the others don't, you'll notice that it's the section where you have that bottle hanging in your tree. They don't have worms or bugs in them. The other section where you don't, you may have to put another bottle in. Yes?
So is that attracting bugs to go into the bottle or repelling them?
Instead of going to the fruit, they like the smell of the sweet.
Leave the lid off.
So the lid's on.
Yeah,
Like
they crawl
take
into
the
there
lid
and
off.
they'll die inside
Yeah.
of there.
You just put a twine around the handle and then hang it in your tree. Sometimes if you have, where you've pruned the tree, you've got these little bumps of a branch that's come out, I'll just take and twine on it and hang it over top of that. It's easy to get out of the tree. But otherwise, you just hang it up there anyway.
So would
another-
both keep the lid off of both with the 2-liter pop?
I take the lid off of both. You don't leave the lid on after you get it in the tree.
Do you redo it throughout the year, or is it just you did it one time and?
The apple ones, the ones in the 2-liter pop bottles, you just do it once. The apple ones, it'll dry up, so you'll have to go out every so often, maybe every 2 weeks, once a month, and put some more in it. It works great. You can also, to help keep the birds out of your trees, because with cherries and all these other trees, and that works with the cherry trees too. Anything with a pit or a seed, the 2-liter pop bottle will do well with that. But you can take the grocery bags that you get at Walmart or other places. The brighter colored ones work better, and you can take and blow air into them and make them so that they look like a balloon and tie them tight. And you can take and hang those out in your garden, along your grapevines, in your trees, in your garden. If you have birds coming in eating your corn, put it in your garden. And they flop around when the breeze blows, scares the birds off.
Another benefit to bottles hanging in the tree. If you have a teenager or something that never cleans their room, you take that off in the fall and set it in the room. The stench is unbelievable. And you say, well, maybe it's time to clean the room. So they can't sleep unless they do, so it works good. The benefits to those things. They absolutely reek.
Okay, when you're in your garden and you're doing the hoeing is hard to do. Because you're out there and you're using a hoe, and you're out there and you're chopping with it. There it went. So you're kind of bent over and hoeing like this. It takes a lot to hoe. This, I call it a hollow hoe. I think it's called a stirrup hoe. It looks like it's got a stirrup on it. And these, I love them. You get out there, and especially when the weeds are just coming up through the ground, they're little, even when they get a little bit bigger. And all you're doing is just out there, just rolling back and forth. Just that easy. That's all you're doing. And it just cuts those weeds right off. So this one, if something were to happen to this hoe, I think I would die. Can't go without my hoe. Okay.
So Cassie, so in the beginning of every season, do you add stuff to your soil?
In the fall.
Okay, so nothing
In the fall. Or early in the spring before we weed or before we plant. You can put manure on. There are good manures to have. You've got your cow manure, you've got pig manure. The ones that are the hot ones are the pig, they have bat manure. It talks about
If
that.
you're going to put those in, you have to do it in the fall. You can't do it in the spring.
Because it's got to be able to decompose a bit.
What about turkey?
Turkey is hot too. Any kind of poultry is hot. So if you're going to do that, you want to mix it so that it mixes with the soil and it sits for a while before you put your plants in, because otherwise it's going to burn them up.
And if you don't ever want to burn it up, raise 25 rabbits.
Rabbit manure is very good for your garden. Yeah.
Yeah, rabbit manure, in particular for strawberries, the best manure you could ever put in.
You can pile rabbit manure 4 feet deep in your garden and it still won't burn.
Good stuff.
It is.
What about wood chip mulch along with the...
If the wood chips are not too big, you're going to have to let those go over winter, because it takes a bit to break those up. The smaller sawdust type, that's good to put in your garden. That works good. You can do that even in the springtime. Because what it's going to do is it's going to hold the moisture in, kind of like some of these things that you can get at the nursery that holds moisture. You can do the same thing with sawdust.
How many of you, well, I'll show you a couple of things we do to try to increase the produce out of the garden. You know that an electrician would make something like this. You've been by my garden, I put posts in the ground, and then at the top and the bottom I run these, and then I string it so my beans climb the twine that I put in. I've done it where I have tomatoes that climb, and it takes a lot of work to do that, but one of the benefits I've found with the tomatoes, you get them 4, 5, 6 feet high, and in the fall, we've had fresh tomatoes as late as November and early December, because the upper part of the plant gets big enough it protects the bottom part of the plant from freezing, so you might have the upper part black from frost, and yet you still have tomatoes part way up that are still good. And so that's one way we do it. You've probably seen these tomato cages. They are the most worthless thing you could ever put in a garden. All you do is get the tomato comes up and it just falls over. And then you're trying to get this out every fall. One thing I've used, maybe most of you don't know what this is. In my business as an electrician, we put in cable tray for communication cables. They come in 10 foot, this is 2 of them hooked together. But I use these for tomato cages. And they're not going to fall over, so the tomato comes up and they're nice and sturdy.
A little bit bigger than that, though.
Yeah, I've got some that are bigger, but you just use what you got available to you. Some people don't know what this is. The first year I put some conduit in and ran a string between it. My wife said, "What the heck are you doing?" I said, "Well, I want to make the row straight." So, geez, not that big of a deal if it's straight. Well, I didn't want to look like it was following a cow with the hose, so I try to make them straight so it looks like you have some kind of a plan. So, you know, you don't want the rows winding back and forth and looking like some amateur did it.
And if you've
Sometimes
seen
looks is
him-
everything, right?
Yeah, sometimes if you've seen him out in the garden, he's out there with his tape measure, and he's got those stakes with this twine, this rope on it, from one end of the garden to the other. He measures to the next one, hammers that one in, goes to that one, and takes it, and then he'll dig his row along that string. And they are straight, and it makes it look nicer, and it keeps it so that it's easier to keep your newspaper, because your newspaper just goes straight. It's not gonna, you know, so it makes it nicer, it's easier to take care of if your rows are straight. And another,
Certain plants you want so far apart, some you want close together. So when I'm laying out my garden in the spring, if I know that, you want to rotate your crops around every year. You don't want to plant potatoes at this end all the time. If you plant potatoes at this end, next year you want to plant them somewhere else. You don't want to keep planting them at the same place all the time. So when I lay out the garden, I'll take my tape measure out and say, okay, I'm going to plant the corn down here this year. And I put 36-inch space in between my corn rows. And then I'll lay it out so I know how much I need for my potatoes and stuff. So then when something's coming up, I'll plant an early crop. And then later on, I'll plant the other one. But it's already laid, and that's when I go back, I still have the proper space. And my wife thinks I'm wasting a lot of time. Got to make it look like you know what you're doing.
to backtrack a little bit on these tomatoes, tomatoes are better for canning and that type of thing if you plant heirloom tomatoes. Because if you plant the hybrid tomatoes or the GMO tomatoes, you've got to add lemon juice or vinegar to your tomatoes when you can them. And they want you to can them for 45 minutes. You know what that does to a tomato? When you open that can, it's going to come out of there like liquid.
You know,
There's
it's
not going to
actually,
be a tomato.
I called last year, the extension service, they said 95 minutes.
Yeah, they keep upping it and upping it. What they've done is they've taken the acid out of the tomato, and therefore you have to put it back in. So I like to grow heirloom tomatoes because their seeds are up to 100 years old, the same plant. Well, not the same plant, but the same plant family. It's just kind of gone down like you do, grandparents, great-grandparents, that type of thing. It's the same thing with your plant. Those seeds are the same as what this mother plant is way back here. And they have the acid, the natural acid in them. So when I can my tomatoes, I can 25 minutes. They look great. They're fine. I get to have them tested and they do just fine. They're the same way my grandparents did, my great-grandparents, everybody has done it this way. If you have the original heirloom seed, you can do the gardening and the canning like your grandparents did. If you do the hybrid or the GMO seeds, you've got to do special kind of things with them to can. And then they're not going to come out very good.
Do you plant starts or do you plant seeds?
We've done it both ways. I've started my own before, and we've gone to the nursery. You want to make sure you check with them because it will say hybrid on the little stick in there. It will say hybrid. You don't want that. You want to stay away from hybrid. You want to stay away from GMO. Most of them, they don't grow the GMO, or if they do, they're not telling you they're GMO. But you want to stay with non-hybrid or heirloom. Okay, that's more nutritious, and you've got the original plant that it would have been when your grandparents made it.
Maybe I'm just dumb. Does heirloom just mean the type of seed or is it the type of actual tomato? Because there's different varieties.
There's a lot of different
Does
varieties.
it just mean that it's just an older seed?
It's an older seed. In your handout, there are some things on that front page, right about down here. Mine's blue because it's colored, but yours is black and white. Anyway, right down here, there are some sites that you can go to that will explain the hybrid seeds. It even gives you a place to buy them. If you want to do it that way, you can get other seed catalogs that come in the mail. A lot of them will tell you this is hybrid or this is non-hybrid. This is heirloom. They'll tell you what it is. If they don't, you can call them because they have a phone number on their catalogs, and you can ask them and they'll tell you. So,
Have you ever tried
taking the seeds from the tomatoes yourself, or do you not worry about
I
that?
do that, yeah, I've done that before. You can grab books that tell you how to save your seeds. If they're heirloom, it's a good thing to save them because next year you don't know what next year's going to bring. There may be some kind of a natural disaster, you can't get seeds. So it's a good thing to save some of them. Yes?
Many of you may not be aware, but right over here at Syracuse High School is a very good greenhouse and operated by a local resident. And if you got together and informed him of which plants you wanted, he'd be just as glad to grow what you would purchase from him rather than going to J&J.
There's a lot of smaller greenhouses that people are doing to help augment their income. Yes.
Something we used to do when we grew a lot of beans and that is with getting them that our last little crop would just leave on there, let them dry up, and that was our seeds for the next year. We did that for year after year after year.
Yeah, you can do
Because they
that.
were really easy to get the seed and the plant.
Yeah, it's easy to do that. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So is there any type of fertilizer or something you could put on now? That stuff?
You can, one of the best things, and it's on in your flyer, your last page, grass clippings. Grass clippings are one of your best fertilizers. And it'll tell you right in there that it's one of your best organic fertilizers, not only because it's easy to find free local sources, your neighbor, but also because the clippings do double duty, preventing weeds and conserving garden soil moisture when used as mulch. Two things other fertilizers cannot do. Nitrogen content of clippings will vary, with fresh grass collected in spring from fertilized lawns topping 5% nitrogen, while clippings from later in the year or from unfertilized lawns will likely contain around 2% nitrogen. Be sure to avoid clippings from those perfect lawns that have been treated with herbicides. You don't want to put that in your garden. Okay? So there's a lot of information in your handout. If we don't cover it here, hopefully it's in there. Go to Google it online if you have a question. You can find a lot of answers that way, but make sure you check out the sites really good. Yes?
We accidentally found that if we planted onions by some of our problem plants like broccoli and cauliflower, that we didn't have any bugs around it.
Exactly. I got,
The onions seem to stop insects. We actually plant them around our fruit trees and keeps the bugs away.
Another thing good to plant to keep grasshoppers out is marigolds. The odor of marigolds, just grasshoppers do not like. I don't like grasshoppers either.
no. This one is one, and you can come up and look at these later, even if you're on the phone, you can take pictures of them, I don't really care. And this one is plant a little companionship in your garden. This tells you some plants that you can plant with certain things. Like whole beans, you can plant corn and summer savory. You don't want to plant tomatoes by whole beans, they don't like it. They won't. We did this the one year, and that one row on that side, on this side, where it wasn't tomatoes, we got beans. On the side where there were tomatoes, there weren't any beans. It was not going to grow. It says that pole beans dislike onions, beets, kohlrabies, and sunflowers. This one tells you it's got bush beans, beets, cabbage family, carrots, corn, cucumbers, tomatoes, peas, onions, lettuce, radishes, potatoes, spinach, and turnips. And it tells you what they like to be next to and what they don't like to be next to. And you'll find when you're planting your garden, keep an eye on it, watch it, learn from it. Because some years you'll plant things close together and you'll find out they may not like each other. You're not going to get much of a harvest, and you can say, well, what did I do wrong? It's not anything that you've done wrong. It's just that they don't like each other. You know, there's a lot of racism in gardening.
I'm pretty sure in there it says that rhubarb should never be planted in a garden. Totally like that.
With rhubarb, you just don't plant it. Dennis can see it. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
I asked before about puncture vine.
Is there another name for it, do you know?
Goat's head.
Goat's Head. You can go online.
It's the bicycle tire box.
Yeah, oh yeah, those are
We just
nasty.
call them puncher weeds.
Yeah. So, go online, put in Goat's Head. Google it and see what organically you can do to get rid of it. There's one in here that more than likely will get rid of it. It's vinegar, Epsom salts, and water. You mix it together, and it's got the recipe in here. Mix that together, take your spray bottle out, or you can take the 2-liter, 2-liter pump thing that you can take out and spray. You can use that too, and take it out. Just spray
Best
it.
thing I've found for puncher weeds, they're easy to pull out, and you get all the goat heads out with them. I just go out there, pick the things and throw them in the garbage can to get rid of them. I've never tried to eradicate them with any kind of a weed poison.
No, we usually just pick them out.
Well, and the other sad thing is that the right puncture gizmo can stay in the soil for 90 years and then germinate,
Yeah.
depending on tillage and sunlight and other conditions.
There's a lot of different things. Yeah.
Tom's one of the best gardeners around, so if you have any questions, just ask him.
He does a beautiful garden every year. Yes, sir.
The grass clippings, you let them dry out first, you put them on when they're green and...
Put 'em on.
Okay.
As soon as we mow them, we take the mower bag and just take it and dump it on top of the, we put the newspaper down and then just go ahead and dump it on top of the newspaper, spread it out as we go. So sometimes you'll come by our house, you'll see where we've got part of the row has the grass and the newspaper on it, the other part doesn't. That's because we ran out of grass clippings. Okay?
Second
Yeah.
question.
Go ahead.
Second question, your diatomaceous earth, do you just spray that on the leaf for insects, or do you actually mix it in the soil as a fertilizer?
Now, what is that?
Diatomaceous earth.
Oh, the diatomaceous earth. I do it on the ground around because your bugs are going to crawl on the ground. I do it on the ground, the stem, the leaves, underside the leaves, the top of the leaves. You'll get other bugs in your garden that you don't want, and you can use the same thing.
But it's more for bugs than it is for fertilizer then?
Yes. Yeah. Patty, did you have a question? Okay. And you have a question?
So if all your grass clippings don't have any weed killer on, what do you use on your grass to keep weeds out of your grass?
A lawnmower.
No, actually, we're doing that, the IFA 4-step program this year. And you can use the grass clippings if you've had several days in between where you've put this kind of thing on. You don't want the herbicides and the pesticides on them. You really would like not to use that. But something like this where it's more natural, you can do that and it's not going to hurt anything.
In the garden, newspaper and grass clippings, straw, grass hay,
You can do that.
the neighbors.
You know, you can actually take and do a garden where you can put straw on the garden, all over the whole top of the garden, and put your row in there. Then you can just leave it like that, and the next year you can just add more straw and do your rows that way. You don't really have to till it. That's going to be kind of like it is up in the mountains where it just has all the stuff and it just continues to decompose. You add more to it, it decomposes. So, and that's good in the fact that it gives you a lot of nutrition that way. It's kind of hard to work with sometimes. It's not as pretty as a tilled garden, but it does work. It's on the
So what are your thoughts on raised bed gardening or square foot gardening?
You can find all that in here. We've tried it and our gardens, our beds fell apart basically because we didn't have the right kind of wood. So we've thought about doing it again.
I've tried lots of different types. I've tried what they used to call grow boxes. I did that when I lived over in Roy. I had a lot less room to work with, and they were good. It takes a lot of work. They're pretty costly up front to do, but they have their advantages and disadvantages.
Any kind of garden does.
Yeah,
It's not work.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it boils
What
down
works good
to.
for you? You know, one may work good for your neighbor, but something else may work good for you.
I had some neighbors over in Roy that they didn't have any garden space at all, but they loved potatoes. So the way they did potatoes, they put a car tire down, fill it with dirt, plant potatoes, and every time that plant gets up high enough, they put another tire on, they'd have a stack of tires 6 or 7 feet high, and they'd have 100 pounds of potatoes in there at the end of the year. So there are do things, even if you don't have regular garden space, you can just be creative and make use of what you do have.
And you can go online and Google a lot of that, and you'll get a lot of answers. Sometimes, I don't know, it depends on who you have as friends on your Facebook account, they'll pass things like that along that comes to them, and you can find all different kinds of ways to plant plants or grow a garden. You don't have to have a big space out in your yard to have a garden. You can do little things. You can plant them in with your flowers. You can have a garden. You can plant tomatoes or strawberries or whatever, and just kind of have a little garden in your garden beds. Works good. Anything else? Okay, if we're not going to,
Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, well, I wanted to know if you would tell us why you guys are so passionate about gardening and how you came to this. I mean, since you were little, or did something happen?
We both had them when we were little, but
Go ahead. Tell your story.
20 years ago, I was diagnosed with lupus, and the doctor told me, go home, enjoy what time you've got left. You've got a baby. I had a little 10-month-old. And he said, go home and enjoy what time you've got left, because it's not going to be, you can go for quite a while and suffer and have problems. And I told him, you know, I don't believe you. I'm not going to go home. I'm not going to die. I'm going to go home and I'm going to find out what I can do to take care of my health myself. And I'm going to do that. And he said, well, what attitude you've got, you'll do fine. So I am doing well. The doctors have told me the last couple times, well, this last time, they told me it was back because I stopped taking my medicine. I make my own medicine. And a lot of it is what we plant in the garden, because we don't have the pesticides, we don't have the herbicides, we don't have all of the garbage in the garden that you get in the grocery store that's going to make you sick. So that's basically why we are so passionate about the garden. We want to live, we want to have a good life, and that's where we are. So they told me that not to worry about it because they couldn't even find the receptors for it anymore. But this last time, because I stopped taking it, it's kind of on the way back. But anyway, I'll just go back to what I was doing before, and I'll be fine. So, any other questions?
I grew up, like I said, having a garden. That was part of my responsibility learning. But one of the things I learned about gardening is just like life. You probably heard of the law of the harvest. Everything about life, if you take your kids out to a garden, teach them how to do a garden, they learn a lot about life. And those of you who sit in a bishop's office sometime and talk to kids about some of the little transgressions they have, if you compare that to a garden, if you go out there in a garden when the weeds are real small, get rid of them, piece of cake. But once those weeds get out of control, that garden is lost, and that's just like those unrepentant sins. They're pretty easy to get rid of when you're, you stole your sister's marbles or something like that. But when you get worse things, then you've got problems. And it takes faith to plant a garden. It takes work. And what you're going to get out of a garden depends on what you're going to put into it, just like life. If you want a good life, you put a lot into it. If you want a mediocre life, you don't have to do a whole lot, just kind of coast. So there's so many lessons in life that I've learned through gardening, that I was taught by my parents and by myself. I have a son of mine that's, we had a pretty serious chat one day, trying to help him understand some of the lessons of life. And he said, Dad, I don't learn from other people. I have to learn everything myself. And I said, son, you haven't got time to learn everything yourself. Well, just shortly after this conversation, I was working with him on a project at Van Loman High School. We had to go into a crawl space and put some fiber optics cable in And when we went down in there, I told him, I said, now son, we're going through here, and there's some T-beams in here, they're fairly low profile, so you got to duck to miss those things, or you're going to have a bad experience. So anyway, I went down there, and I'd gone 50 or 60 feet into their area, and then my son comes down, all of a sudden I hear a big thud, and he banged his head on one. I said, Josh, I'm so glad you could learn that lesson on your own. You have to listen to me. He said, lesson learned. So there's a lot we can learn in life from others. Every one of you in here have had experiences with certain parts of your life that I've never experienced. Someone once said we're all ignorant only on different subjects. And that's another thing exciting about gardens is gardens are just like people. There's different types of plants, there's different types of people. And if you have a variety, it's great. If everything's the same, if you planted nothing but corn, it'd be a pretty boring garden. Still be pretty good. But if you have throw in tomatoes, it gets a little bit better. If you have strawberries, it's really divine. If you have rhubarb, then things really gone to pot. Sweet potatoes don't help either.
Is there a variety of sweet potatoes that will grow here?
Yeah,
You know what I do? I go to the grocery store and I get a sweet potato, I get a yam. And I'll take it home and I'll put some toothpicks in it. I'll get a jar and I'll put some water in there. And I'll take and put that yam in that jar with the water, and I'll wait until it starts to sprout. When it starts to sprout, and you get those little plants on it that start to get leaves on them, pull them off, stick them in the water. They'll put out roots. And when I do that, then I take those out to the garden and I plant them, and we get a good crop. So it works good that way. Another thing that I like about gardening and families, you can take the children out and do it for a family home evening. You know, go out with your children. Don't just send them out to the garden, they'll hate it. But if you go out with them and you are pulling weeds with them, you can talk to them about their problems. You can explain some of your problems to them. Hey, I didn't know mom and dad had problems. You know, you get to know each other better that way. You can do like my boys and their dad have done. Have clod fights. Make sure it's not a hard one or a rock, but you can have those fights and they'll say, hey, Joe, and then throw it. And they look up, and as soon as they look up, it's coming out. So they've got the, like 4 in golf, look up. You know, they've got the warning, and they're not taken off guard, but then they pick one up and throw it back at them. And they usually try to get it when he's turned around backwards so that they can get him in the bag.
Just don't throw tomatoes, you don't want to waste tomatoes. Just throw sweet potatoes.
You can have fun. What I'm saying is you can have fun in the garden with your children. It doesn't have to be all work. It can be work for a while, go in and have a good treat, continue to talk, enjoy life. Gardening is a joy. When you get into it and you really work it and you bring your family into it, it can really be a joy. And it's teaching those children work can be enjoyable. It can be fun. It can be rewarding. If you bring them in, have them help you harvest the produce, take it in, cook it, feed it to them. Say, you have to grow this. Doesn't that feel good? You know, there's all kinds of things you can do with that. And it works out really well.
Work is its own reward. It really is. We appreciate the opportunity of being here. We don't want to worry too long, but thanks so much for...
One more quick thing here. This is just a quick mention. They have a class coming up on canning, but now would be the time to start gathering your supplies. We've got some canners up here and some canning books, and you want to really get started getting stuff gathered up. There's different kinds of canners. There's this one, which is a hot water bath. You can see this is well used. This one you would do for fruits only. You don't do vegetables in a hot water bath, okay? There are 2 different types of steam or pressure canners. One has the weights on it. So you've got, each one of these pieces is 5 pounds, 5-pound weight. So if you need 10 pounds weight, you just put 1 piece on. And, I mean, they come with instructions with them. But they're easy. I love these ones, the ones with the little rocker. You don't have to worry about the dial. The dial-ins, you have to take those in and have them adjusted every year. So up at Kitchen Needs in Ogden, they'll do that for you for free. But you have to sit there and keep an eye on it all the time you're using it, because it'll go up and down, it'll fluctuate. With this one, it lets off the steam. As long as it's rocking, you know it's got the steam is going the way it should be. It's got the right amount of pressure. If it's rocking too much, you want to turn the heat down. It's not going to explode on you or anything, but if it rocks way too much, you want to turn the heat down. If it's just rocking, you know, a soft rock, it's going to good. And you can have all kinds of, I love these ones. In fact, I loaned one out and they kept it. This kind of a canner, you don't want to use. These are steam canners. You put water in the bottom of this, you put your bottles in here, and you just set this on the top of the bottles. There's no way to seal it or anything like that. The Extension Service has told us, do not use these. They do not get your produce hot enough. They don't get your bottles hot enough to seal them correctly. They will pop the seal. You can get botulism from these ones fairly easy. So this kind you don't want to use, okay? Just a heads up. You can find these in secondhand stores. You can find your canning supplies in like Kmart, Walmart, whatever. You can find them online. You can find people selling them in yard sales. There are a lot of ways to find them, and you can get them a lot cheaper than if you go to the store. Just watch your newspaper for yard sales. A lot of times they'll have canning supplies. You can get your bottles there too. As long as there's no cracks or anything on the bottle, they're okay to use. Just keep eyeing your lids and your rings. Okay? I'm not going to say a lot about canning. We love can. Some years I canned 600 quarts of produce. So our children help us eat that. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of, but it's well worth it. And I know what's in it. I know what I've grown it with. I know what's in it from the seed to the time it's on my table. I know what's in it. I don't have to guess. And I don't have to read that long list of non-pronounceable words. So, anyway, you're welcome to come up and look at everything that we've got up here. Ask more questions if you'd like. Guess maybe, if there are no other questions, any other questions?
I have one question. You told me this one time, but I cannot remember what you told me. Something about the first blossoms on the tomatoes, picking them off.
Oh, no, it's not the blossoms you want to pick off. Okay? On a tomato plant, you'll have the limbs coming out, and there will be in between this limb and the main stem, there's going to be another little one right here in the middle. It's coming out, another little stem coming out.
Suckers.
Those are called suckers. You want to pick those off. Because if you don't, you're going to have a tomato plant that's going to be worse than an octopus. I mean, it's going to have so many different limbs and branches out that way. You're not going to get as good a fruit. You'll make it a lot more fruit, but it's going to be a lot smaller. So if you want the bigger tomatoes for your sandwiches and things like that, you want to pick a lot of those suckers off. Okay?
And otherwise, you just get nothing but plant, no fruit.
Yes.
Any tips to get melons to grow better of every kind, cantaloupes, honeydew, watermelon?
I haven't had a lot of luck with watermelon because we don't have a sandy enough soil. So, you really need they need a lot of water, but they also have to have good drainage. So even with working with the soil we have, the cantaloupes do well, but we've never had a lot of success with watermelons.
In your handout, it talks about the melons. So go home and read your handout because it does tell you about the melons in here. All squash, that's squash bugs. The melons, where did they put that?
Is that under the when?
Hmm?
It's on part titled When or When.
Yeah,
Talks about when to
that
pick
one
them.
talks about the melons.
Talks about when to
There we
pick them,
go.
and I didn't see much as far as how to grow them. We never sent out good luck with our melons.
Google it. A lot of things you can do, Google online, you're going to find a lot of different people that have done it, and they'll tell you, this is what worked for me, and this was something that didn't work. Cantaloupe, which in the United States they're actually muskmelons, they're not cantaloupe. Cantaloupe has a more of a warty type of skin to them, and it's hard. The ones we have in the grocery stores that they call cantaloupe, those are muskmelons. They're not cantaloupe. It does tell you in here, they do need to have a lot of sun. You need to have a lot of sun, and you need to, your melons usually don't get the squash bug unless they're next to, say, a pumpkin. Even that, they usually don't attack your melons. They've got a different type of a smell to them. But you can, and cantaloupes or muskmelons, we can grow those quite well. We can grow cantaloupe. The only thing that we have a hard time growing is watermelon. The other melons we grow just fine. So I don't know what it is with watermelons, if it's the variety or if it's just our soil just doesn't like, they don't like it. Yes, sir.
Will most tomatoes climb if you use those cages?
Tomatoes have a tendency to, they'll come up out of that cage. As long as that cage is going up with them, they'll climb it. But what they'll do is they'll just spread out over top of it. Tomatoes, when we put them on a pole like this, we'll take and put the twine up, but you have to go out there and you tie the twine down at the bottom, the base of the tomato, and then you kind of have to wrap it around the stem as it goes up. And you have to do it periodically. You can't just let it go because it'll flop over. Okay?
And those, you definitely have to take the suckers off that she was talking about, so they'll climb up and they just kind of wrap the vine around.
They
Sometimes
don't really
on those I
climb up.
put 2 or 3
You
down.
climb them up. Okay? They don't really climb. You have
They
to.
won't go like a bean all on their own. You've got to kind of wrap them around and then they'll go up, but they do a lot better, especially late in the fall.
The Amish in Ohio, they will take a tomato plant and they tie the rope down at the bottom, and they have a long, like a spool of thread at the top where they have the rope on it, and they'll take and wind that tomato plant and just take the one stem. They don't take any of the other stems. They break all of those other stems off. They just take the one stem up and they get nice big tomatoes. And what they do is, as it keeps growing up, they take and twine the base of the tomato down at the full ground. And it just kind of lays there in a circle like a hose does, and the rest of it will climb up that vine, and it keeps going up that vine, and they just keep bringing the rope down more, and as it goes up, they just curl up on the ground, and they keep getting the big tomatoes. They go all the way up. Okay? Yes.
Well, tomato is perennial. They only
Mhm.
die here because of freeze.
Mhm.
So if you were in a greenhouse, you can grow a tomato for 10 years.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, the time's yours.
So, thank you. We want to just do this please. Thank you so much for all of
Thank
your
you.
preparation.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. I've learned a lot. I've learned that President Johnson needed to have some of my grandma's strawberry rhubarb pie. And you would like
The
to-
strawberry is good, the rhubarb isn't.
I love strawberry rhubarb pie.
So good. And then my heart hurt a little bit when you said sweet potato. That's my favorite food ever.
No, she loves them too. I just don't like sweet potatoes or yams.
Yeah.
It's not celestial food.
Thank you so much. I learned a ton, and I'm motivated now and inspired to get going on my garden and do a better job. I might call you.
That's okay. We get
and
calls every year.
We don't have anyone set up for our county class, so if only we knew someone.
She's the expert.
I know. Nancy, watch out. if you'll take just a minute and help us out, go to this link and fill out a survey for us. We're trying to find out what people are interested in for future classes. That would be really helpful. Thank you again. Thank you for coming tonight. And we, because the church is true, we have refreshments. And we'll close with Brother Richardson doing our closing prayer. Thank you.